Centuries ago, in the mist-shrouded port city of Bruges, renowned for its ancient guilds and gold-laden caravans that traveled the old sea roads, there lived a young merchant, whose coffers overflowed with crowns, and whose name was whispered in every counting house from Kent to Bohemia. Just beyond the city's last stone gate, the trade road plunged into the black oak wild, a forest so old its branches knitted the sky shut, and whose root-twisted paths were haunted by wolves and older things. One autumn dusk, weighed by ledgers of debt and a sealed charter he must deliver to the Hanseatic League, before the first frost, the merchant rode alone beneath those skeletal boughs. A mile beyond the final milestone he reined in his lathered mare. A single colossal oak, bark scarred like battle shield, spread a pool of gloom wide enough to swallow the dying light. He dismounted, spread his cloak upon the moss, and took bread, cheese, and a flask of spiced wine from his saddlebag. He had not yet wiped the last crumb from his beard when the air curdled. From the hollow trunk stepped a shape taller than a crusader's tent, wrapped in tatters of rotting bark and antler shadow. Its eyes burned swamp green. In its gauntlet fist it carried a sword of black iron, that looked forged in the first, godless age. With a voice like millstones grinding bones it cried, "Mortal, thy apple cores lie strewn upon my earth. One struck the brow of my only son beneath the roots. He is dead. For this I claim thy life in forfeit." The merchant's knees struck the ground. Wine spilled like blood across the moss. "Lord of the wood," he stammered, "grant me the turning of 1 year. Let me ride to Bruges, settle every debt upon my ledger, kiss my children goodbye, and set my house in order. 12 moons from tonight I shall return beneath this very bough, and place my neck beneath thy blade without murmur." The forest spirit tilted its antlered helm, considering. A wind without source stirred the dead leaves into a spiral. 1 year, it echoed. "Swear upon the old law that binds stone and stream." "I swear," the merchant rasped, pressing his signet into the earth as pledge. The thing melted back into the bark. Only the stink of turned soil remained. The merchant mounted, spurred his mare, and thundered toward Bruges with the night devouring the road behind him. All winter he sold warehouses of Flemish cloth at loss, paid every coin owed to Lombard bankers, and sat each child upon his knee to tell them tales of courage, without once revealing the price upon his own head. When the last ledger bore the red seal discharged, he embraced his wife in the doorway of their timbered house, inhaling the scent of her hair as though to carry it across the grave. At dawn of the appointed day he rode out alone, leaving every heirloom dagger and ring upon the high table. By twilight the black oak wild had swallowed even the sound of the sea. He dismounted beneath the same scarred oak, looped the mare's reins over a root, and sat upon his cloak to wait. The forest held its breath. A twig cracked. An old herdsman emerged, leading a roe deer on a hempen rope. His beard was the color of hoarfrost. His eyes held the patience of winter stars. "Stranger," he croaked, "what brings a silk-clad townsman to the root of the gallows tree?" The merchant told him everything, voice steady as a man reciting his own funeral mass. When the tale ended he added, "Leave this place, grandfather. What comes at midnight is not for witnessing." The herdsman leaned upon his ashwood staff. "Until I see the ending carved, I will not stir." Before the merchant could protest, another figure appeared, a brawny lad in leather jerkin, gripping the choke chains of 2 mastiffs whose fangs gleamed like cathedral spires. He hailed them, listened to the merchant's story anew, and likewise planted his feet. Thus the 3 waited beneath the darkening oak, the air thick with unspoken dread, while the first star pricked the sky like a drop of poisoned silver. Then came a 4th traveler, leading a bony pack mule piled with furs. Seeing the others ringed beneath the gallows tree like felons awaiting the noose, he tethered his beast and stood silent, becoming stone number 4 in the circle. They had barely exchanged names when the wind died, and every leaf hung motionless. A whirlwind of black grit rose from the earth itself, coiling like a serpent, and within it the antlered lord stepped forth unchanged. sword naked, eyes burning swamp fire. Its voice cracked the night. Your bonds are severed. Merchant, thy hour has devoured itself. Kneel and receive the blade. The young merchant's composure shattered. He fell forward, sobbing into the moss, tears carving pale runnels through the dirt on his cheeks. The forest spirit raised its iron sword high enough to slice the moonlight. At that instant the old herdsman dropped his staff, spread his arms, and stepped between killer and victim. King of the wood, he cried, voice steady as winter ice, grant me the hearing of thee. I carry a tale stranger than any spell woven in these groves. If its telling stirs even thy ancient heart, wilt thou remit 1/3 of the blood price owed by this man? The spirit's antlers tilted, green eyes narrowed to slits. Speak, mortal. But no, mercy is a coin I seldom mint. The herdsman drew a rattling breath and began, gaze fixed upon the roe deer that still stood tethered beside him. Know then, dreadlord, that this hind beside me is no beast but my own wife, once niece to my father's brother, wed to me 40 winters past. Our hearth lay cold, no child came. In my grief I bought a foreign serving girl who bore me a son, a bright-eyed boy who laughed at rain. For 15 years we three lived in a cottage roofed with rye thatch, content as mortal days allow. Then the guild summoned me to drive cattle along the Rhine. I kissed my wife and the bondwoman both, left coin for grain, and rode away, while my back was turned my lawful wife. This woman, now cursed to 4 hooves, practiced the old blood rites she had learned from a hedge witch in her youth. With lock of hair and drop of spit she twisted the serving girl into a milk cow, and my son into a red calf. She sold them to the first drover passing, pocketed the silver, and waited. When I returned she met me with tearless eyes, saying the girl had died of flux, and the boy had run after a wandering tinker. I mourned, yet believed, for who suspects the woman who shares one's bed? Years rolled like mist. Then came the feast of St. Martin, when custom demands every household offer its finest beast to the cathedral butcher. I sought the fattest heifer in the market, and chose a snow-white cow whose eyes held oceans of sorrow. It was she, the bondwoman, though I knew it not. I led her to the slaughter stone, lifted the hammer, and saw tears, great silver tears, roll down her velvet snout. My arm froze. Loose her, I told my men. We shall buy another. But my wife shrieked, clawing my sleeve. Strike! The beast is chosen. The priests await. Her frenzy pricked my doubt, yet I obeyed. The hammer fell. When the hide was flayed the carcass proved hollow. Ribs only. No meat. No heart blood. Only a husk as though the creature had long been drained. I said nothing, swallowed the horror, and paid the butcher still. Days later I chose a young steer for a second offering, the red calf, my own son unknowing. He lowered his brow to my boots, gazing up with such pleading that my soul quaked. I spared him, bought a scrawny goat in his stead, though my wife raved and tore her hair. Not a fortnight after, a cowherd came knocking. His daughter, a maid who walks the hedge paths between worlds, saw the red calf at pasture and cried, "That is no beast but a boy enchanted, son to the man who spared him. His mother was the cow you slew, and both were cursed by the mistress of that house." The word struck me like a warhammer upon sternum. I fell to my knees in the muck, and the grief of 2 murders, wife's treachery, my own blind blade gnaws my heart still. The herdsman's voice cracked. The night itself seemed to clutch its breath. I rose at cockcrow, rode straight to the cowherd's hovel, and flung open the wicker gate. Inside, the girl sat carding charms from sheep's wool and rowan berries. "Daughter of the hedge," I said, "restore the calf to boy shape, and I will heap gold before thee higher than the winter snows." She lifted eyes the color of storm-washed slate. "I crave no coin," she answered, "but I set 2 bride prices. First, that when the steer stands on 2 legs thou shalt wed him to me. Second, that the witch who wove this curse be delivered into my hands for such justice as I choose." I agreed without hesitation. My honor already lay in ashes. She took an earthen bowl, drew water from the well, and over it whispered runes older than the first church bell. 3 times she breathed. 3 times she scattered the water over the red calf. Flesh rippled, bones lengthened, hide split like burnt parchment. Where the calf had knelt, my son stood naked, trembling, human. I caught him as he fell, crushing him to my breast while tears scalded both our faces. That same evening, by lantern light and before witnesses, I bound the boy's hand to the maid's with a strip of the calf's own shed hide. While the marriage vows still rang in the rafters, she turned upon my treacherous wife. One hiss of forbidden speech, one flick of rowan-laced water, and the woman shrank, antlers sprouting from her skull, limbs folding, until a roe deer stood tethered where once a bride had slept. That hind, my punishment and my penance, follows me ever since. Thus I walked this road, saw the merchant alone beneath the gallows tree, and stayed, hoping heaven might weigh my sorrow against another man's doom. When the herdsman fell silent, the forest lord's sword lowered a finger's breadth. Strange indeed, the spirit rumbled. By the old law I remit 1/3 of the merchant's debt. A sigh rippled through the watchers like wind across barley. At once the mastiff master stepped forward, chains clinking. King of dread, my tail outweirds the hind herds. Spare yet another third and I shall loose it. The antlered helm nodded. Speak, if wonder matches promise, the merchant's blood price shall shrink again. The man drew breath, steadying the snarling dogs at either side. Hear then, Night Lord, these 2 brutes are my brothers by one womb. When our sire died we inherited 5,000 crowns. I alone traded wisely, Flemish cloth to Novgorod, Baltic amber to Iberia, until our coffers brimmed. My siblings, drunk on dice and harlots, squandered their portions and fled the city shamed. A year later the elder crawled back, rags flapping like pennants of defeat. I seated him in my counting room, fed him venison and strong ale, and, moved by pity, gave him 1,000 crowns to begin anew. Scarcely had the ink dried in the ledger when the younger appeared, equally broken. I clothed him, comforted him, and set another 1,000 in his palm. For a season all prospered. Then greed rekindled. They came wheedling. Brother, let us sail together for Outremer. The silk of Antioch yields 10-fold profit. I warned them of Saracen storms and pirate shoals, but their clamor wore me down. We pooled what remained. I had 6,000. I purchased 3 of trade goods, pepper, tint, fine English wool, and kept 3 in gold for the voyage. A month of sour waves later we made landfall at a Levantine port, sold at treble price, and bought musk, ivory, and sugar for the return. On the very quay, as we prepared to board, a woman stepped from the salt haze. Black hair floated about her like spilled ink. Her veil had slipped so that moonlight kissed cheeks pale as church marble. Gentle merchants, she sang, I have been robbed of kin and coin. Take me aboard and all my buried wealth shall be yours. My brothers drooled like mastiffs before raw meat. I smelled witch bloom on her breath and refused. But she spoke in tongues half Latin, half siren, until my own resolve melted like wax before furnace. We ferried her across the wine-dark sea. 3 nights out she began her work. With whispered vows and wanton smiles she turned brother against brother, then against me. Alas, under a moonless sky, she drew a circle in ship's pitch, spat into it, and spoke words that crawled like lice across the soul. My siblings dropped to all fours, snouts lengthening, fangs sprouting. Where men had stood, 2 black mastiffs glared up at me, chains already about their necks. She meant to slit my throat and claim the whole cargo. But dawn's first shaft of light found her spell half wrought. I snatched the ship's iron crucifix, still warm from the chaplain's dying grasp, and drove her back. With a shriek she leapt overboard. The waves closed like doors, leaving only her laughter drifting like oil upon the water. Thus I sail forever with my brother's souls leashed in canine hides, a living chain of my own folly. He finished. The mastiffs whine, catching the forest's echo of sorcery. After the voyage I sought a hedge witch of honest repute. She read the salt stains on my cloak and named the sea sorceress who had dogged us. "Fight witchfire with witchfire," she said, and taught me a binding of mirror and net. I lured the black-haired fiend into her own circle, trapped her reflection in a silvered bowl, and broke the glass. Her body shattered with it, shards sinking into moonlit foam. Yet the cure carried a clause. The witch's own malice must be left to ripen in the ones it touched. Only when my brothers had worn the leash long enough to taste the ash of their greed would the spell weaken. So I keep them thus, hounds of remorse, until the day they learn to beg no more for coin or flesh. The antlered lord studied the mastiffs. Their eyes, almost human, dropped in shame. "Twice strange," he intoned. "The second third is forgiven. One portion alone clings to the merchant." Silence folded itself over the grove. From the shadows the fourth traveler stepped, leading the raw-boned pack mule by a rope of hemp so frayed it seemed spun from cobwebs. Dust of a dozen kingdoms powdered his cloak. His face bore the weathered patience of a man who has listened to the creak of cartwheels beneath every sky. He inclined his head, voice gentle as frost on glass. "King of the wood, thou hast heard two tales and meted justice measured and true. Grant me thine ear for a third, and if it carry equal weight, let the merchant's last debt be washed away entire." The spirit's sword hovered, moonlight running down the edge like liquid mercury. "Speak," came the hollow reply. "If thy words be steeped in truth and bitter lesson, I shall loose every remaining drop of blood guilt." The muleteer drew breath that rattled with memories of distant seas and desert caravans. "Once I dwelt in Bruges, jewel of the northern trade, where my father and I owned 3 bonded warehouses and a fleet of 12 round ships. Honor sat at our table each night. Gold merely poured the wine. My sire warned me, 'Son, coin is a faithless lover. Only upright dealing endures.' Youth scorns caution. When fever took him, the ledger's weight slid onto my shoulders, and at first I bore it well. But prosperity breeds a hungrier wolf. I began to shave the scales, to mix powder chalk with pepper, to sell futures on cargo not yet loaded. Poor traders I lured with dazzling promises, then locked them into contracts that bled them white. One winter dusk a wayworn stranger entered my counting room leading a mule whose coat gleamed the color of storm clouds, and whose stride spoke of mountain strength. "Master merchant," he pleaded, "bandits stripped me save for this beast. Sell him for passage money and let me sail home." I saw the animal's worth, 50 crowns at least, yet pressed 2 silver pieces into his palm, muttering lies of falling markets. Starved and desperate, he accepted, departed with tears freezing in his beard. That night I laughed, certain I had wrung fortune's final drop. Fortune laughed louder. Within the week my richest galleon sank in a squall off Finisterre. Insurers cited hidden clauses and paid nothing. Partners vanished with chests of spice. Creditors circled like kites. In 6 months the marble house was bare. My wife's dowry sold. My name struck from the guild roll. I took to the roads with the self-same mule, my last mockery of wealth, trading petty wares from village to village, sleeping beneath ruined watchtowers where owls questioned the dark. One moonless night I sought shelter beside a derelict manor whose chimneys stood like broken spears. As I unsaddled the mule a shimmer of pale fire coalesced. From it stepped a woman robed in dusk, her face luminous as candle wax. "Knowest thou me?" she asked. I shook my head, for the face was veiled in sorrow and starlight. "I know no wife of any man I cheated," I confessed. She smiled thin, merciless. "I am she whose husband you robbed. The mule you bought for a pittance was his last hope. He died of shame upon the road. I am of the otherworld being, and my grief has hunted you across every border." Terror cracked my knees. I dropped into the dust, palms open as though the earth might drink my guilt. "I was blind, greedy," I cried. "Let the storm of your vengeance break. But spare these bones if mercy still has a tongue." She studied me while nightbirds froze mid-wing. "Repentance is a door that never closes," she said at last. "Yet it demands a toll. This mule you drive is my kinsman, cursed for crimes of pride. Free him and you free yourself." Feed the hungry, clothe the naked, give shelter to the persecuted. Each kindness shall loosen one link of his bridle, and of your own. From that hour I forsook the ledger. I sold my last silver buckle for bread that I handed to beggars beside city gates. I mended fishermen's nets for no wage, taught orphans letters beneath ruined arches, and wherever I saw injustice I stepped between the whip and the whipped. Pride withered. My shadow grew humble as moss. Seasons turned like a pilgrim's wheel. Tonight, hearing the grief of the deer herd, the houndmaster, and the condemned merchant, I knew my journey was not yet finished. I stayed to witness, praying that witness itself might weigh in the scales of mercy. When his voice faded, even the owls withheld comment. The forest lord drove his sword into the moss. Sparks of green fire hissed along the blade. I have listened, he proclaimed. In every tale I found the seed of compassion. The merchant, though reckless, kept faith with death itself. Let the final third be washed away. A wind without source swept the clearing. Leaves whirled upward like startled doves. The antlered figure dissolved into the swirl, and with him the oppressive gloom lifted, leaving only ordinary darkness and the chill of late autumn. The merchant fell forward, pressing brow to earth, shoulders shaking with silent sobs of deliverance. When at last he rose, moonlight silvered the tracks of tears upon his face. He turned to the three strangers, voice raw, "By my life, I will never again barter honor for coin." They clasped hands beneath the ancient oak, for pilgrims bound by peril and absolution. At dawn they parted. The herdsman led the roe deer deeper into the forest. In a hidden glade a white witch awaited to break the last threads of the spell. The mastiff master walked toward the sea, where a hermit versed in saltcraft promised to restore his brothers once 10 years of penance had gnawed the rust from their hearts. The muleteer continued his road of quiet service, the pack mule's step growing lighter with every charitable deed. As for the merchant, he returned to Bruges not as a prince of gold but as a steward of fairness. His warehouses became hostels for the shipwrecked. His profits fed widows and funded bridges where before ferrymen had fleeced the poor. Men spoke his name with respect, and none knew that once he had bargained with a demon beneath a gallows oak. 10 winters passed. The brothers regained human shape beside a tide-washed hermitage. The hind became a woman who wept for the first time since her crime, then spent her remaining days tending lepers. The mule shook off the last of his bridle beneath a harvest moon and trotted free, while the muleteer, old now, beard white as salt, smiled and laid down the rope forever. So the tale travels, whispered where caravans shelter and ships lie at anchor. Whether the sinner be mortal or spirit, the wage of cruelty is ruin, yet the gate of repentance stands open. Patience, pity, and justice, though they wander through night as long as winter, return at last with dawn in their wings.